Right, we're ready to continue with our lists. As you can see, I've put some comments in for tasks 3 and 4 now, so we can see what to do. Let's have a look now what we're going to do. We're going to see if we can actually search through our lists now, finding a specific person. So to do that, we're going to use if. We've used if before. If tells us whether something is true or not. So we're going to say if Paul is in the friends list, don't forget your colon and the indenting. Now, if Paul is in the friends list, then we're going to print, we found Paul. Yes. What happens if we can't find Paul? Well, if we don't find Paul, then we use else. Else means what to do if the if doesn't work. So if the if doesn't work, we're going to say that we can't find Paul. So Paul, not found. There we go. So if Paul is in the friends list, we'll find him. Otherwise, we won't. Let's try that out. So we'll run the module. Save it, of course, because we've changed it. There's all the previous stuff on there, and you'll see that in task 5, we found Paul. Because, of course, Paul is in the list. He's there in the last position. There he is. Let's try one where a person isn't in the list. Let's try a different name. What should we do? Let's do Ferdinand. So if Ferdinand is in the friends, well, we better change everything else here, because if Ferdinand is there, we won't have found Paul, we'll have found Ferdinand. And if we can't find him, then Ferdinand won't have been found. As you can see, there's all a bit of a faff at the moment. We'll fix this in just a moment. Let's try that now. We'll run the module. Okay. And as you can see, Ferdinand is not found, which is no surprise because he's not in the list at all. Okay, let's move on. Now, as you can see, that's all been a bit of a faff. Change the name. Let's do something that's not in the task. Let's change the program to actually ask the person what name they want to have. So let's get them to input a name. So we'll ask the user to input a name. So we'll type in little prompts here, enter a name, don't forget the space, close the bracket. Now we won't be looking for Ferdinand now, we'll be looking for the name that the person's just typed in. So we'll use the variable name instead. And now we won't write Ferdinand, we'll put found, there after the speech mark, a comma, and then put name. So whatever name we typed in, it'll tell us we found it. Or of course, if we didn't find the name, we'll put name there. So whatever name we type in, it'll either find it or not find it. And it means we don't need to change this code again. Let's try that. Save the code because we've just changed it. And now it's asking us for a name. So what name should we put in? Let's put George in. No, George isn't in there. We know that George isn't in there. Let's try running it again. Have to scroll down a bit here, mess around with this until we can get the window the right place so you can see what's going on. That's it. Scroll to the bottom. There we go. So let's enter a name that we do know is in there. Who should we type? Let's type Jill. And sure enough, yep, it's found Jill. So that means now that the program can be used for any name. Makes it much better. Okay, so that's how we can use if to find a person in a list by using the in word. So task 6 now is all about finding out where that name is in the list. Can we find where a person's name is in the list? So just put task 6 there for the heading so we know where we are. So we're going to type that first line of code there where it talks about the index, the place that the person is in the list. So we're going to be working as if we're talking about Paul again this time. So we'll stick with Paul for the moment. So print, and this, so we're going to print what from friends, and we want to find the index, the place in the list of a specific person. In this case, we're going to put Paul. Of course, we could have put name from our previous one. Don't forget the second bracket on the end, because there are two opening brackets. There you go, and the grey box shows you what's going on. So let's see what happens if we run that. Shall we do that? Okay, and we'll put in Paul this time because we'll stick with Paul. There we are, and you can see under task 6 that Paul has been found at position 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Paul is at position 5 in the list, so we can find out where a person is in the list. And as you can see from the code they've asked you actually to think about, right, well, we'll only want to show the index of a person if they are actually in the list. So we don't want to try finding the index of a person who doesn't exist, because that won't work. So we're going to say if Paul in the friends list, then we're going to actually print out their index. So let's grab that, cut it from there, and paste it under the F, not forgetting to indent. And again, if we try that again, we should find that it'll still show us that Paul's in the list, and it should show us that it's index number 5. So we'll run that program, we'll enter Paul again. There we are, we found Paul, and task 6 shows us, because we found him, he's at index position 5. So that's how we can work out where somebody's position is in a list. We can find out if they're in the list, then we can find out where their position in the list is. Okay, task 7. Nice and easy one for task 7. Putting a list into order. At the moment, our list is pretty random. They're just in the list in the same order that they were when we typed them in. But usually when we print out lists of names, we like to print them in an order, maybe alphabetical order. So in this case, we're going to see that Python does have some useful functions that help us to sort lists into order. So, not Frieds, because that's not the name of our list. We'll go back and change that. That's better. So now it's going to sort the list into order, and we better print it out to see what it looks like, to see what happens after we've done that. And then we'll use the reverse function, and I think you can probably guess what that's going to do. We'll print it out just to prove that it does actually work. Okay, so we'll run that code. And save it as ever. Okay, let's type Paul in again. And now you can see, let's just move that over a little bit so we can see where we are. So you can actually see the code that we've used. Actually grab it, that's it. So now, if we look down at task 7, you can see that where we've sorted Ahmed, Jenny, Jill, Luke, Mike, Paul, they're now in alphabetical order. And then if we reversed that list, now they go from Paul all the way down to Ahmed in reverse order. We've sorted the list, and by using reverse, we've put it back into alternative order. Now lists and loops go very well together, because loops repeat things and lists contain lots of the same kind of thing. So we often use for loops as a way of showing what's in a list. So you'll see in task 8 we're using a for loop. Now unfortunately on the task sheet you've got there's a slight mistake, but we'll pick that up as we go along. So we're going to use a for loop, a counter loop that's going to go through the list for friend in friends. Now friend is a variable that's going to pick each one out of the friends list. Now you see I've indented the line afterwards, so each time it finds a friend in there it's going to print it. Then afterwards, after we've done the whole loop, that's why it's not indented anymore, we're going to print the friends list so we can see what's in that list. So let's run that program. All the extra bits in there now. So we'll put Paul in again. And now if you look down at task 8, I think we can just about see, we might need to just change the size of the window a little bit to be able to see it. You can see that the names have been listed one after the other because of the for loop. And then if you look at the bottom, whoops, missed, there you go. If you look at the bottom now, you can see that the list is shown as it normally is, as a list.